in your papers there is a suggestion of the ones that are most relevant to this council and how we might suggest the voting may be put forward on the council's behalf. I don't propose to go through them one by one, but if there's any questions...
Please, I want you to read out each remit and all of the attending information.
There are around about, yes, is that 20 odd pages if you want me to?
No, we don't want to do it.
I didn't think so at 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
And it's his job. Just on the recommendations 1.3, instructs, it's hard to instruct, Councillor Barker. I would put, can we advise?
Or delegates. I'm acting as your delegate. So you delegate.
Yeah, no, you delegate too. But instructing you to vote in opposition.
Yeah, and delegate.
Yeah. Delegate to vote. We have a delegatory democracy. So that's what we have.
So,
there's a couple of queries I have. The first one is in relation to the number one, the climate change remit. I would quite like to see this changed. In fact, somebody has changed it. Is that right? Did I see a note that somebody's proposing to change this or change some other one?
There was a late item of remit 5.
Oh, it's 5, is it?
Is that what you were, that came a little later?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's probably what you're thinking.
Well, I'd quite like this to be changed so that it includes the resolution that we passed earlier today in relation to changing the RMA so that you
that
can...
is covered in number 17.
Oh, is it?
Specifically addresses that.
Oh, okay.
It does.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
And we're being asked to support that.
Right, okay. So I've got 2 other things I wanted to ask about. Number 8, that LGNZ encourages member councils to use environmentally friendly weed control methods. I'm not sure what environmentally friendly is. There is no substitute right now for glyphosate. Glyphosate, it continues to be used. The evidence on it actually being a health hazard is hazy at best, and I, for the life of me, can't see why we'd be supporting this in the absence of much stronger evidence, given that we've got no intention of changing how we do things.
Well, we've always got intention to look at better stuff. And
There is no better stuff.
Well, that's today.
that's today, yeah.
It's
Right,
like voting
given
against
that,
apple pie and motherhood, Peter.
Well, look, just given that it was the same issue that I'd raised, Peter's raised as well, but I'm looking at probably a different angle. And as Peter said, that the evidence is just simply not there. It's just fake news.
Glyphosate.
In terms of the human impacts of glyphosate. However,
Impact on humans, you mean?
the evidence. I mean, what concerns me is in that agenda, in that remit 8, the background information refers to certain meanderings of the World Health Organization determination, when now we know that glyphosate is on the same level as Marmite coffee and canned peaches. Well, we do know that because...
Well, I want you to put some glyphosate on your breakfast.
But I come back to...
I'm really happy to watch you.
Mr Chair, I come to my request on this issue. If we, and we're all for supporting, appropriate means of environmentally friendly means of weed control, but the rationale is simply not acceptable to me.
Can we leave that to our delegate?
No. No. The delegates are carrying our proxy, Mr Chair.
But let's be clear about this. You're not going to vote against a resolution for safer weed control. I mean, it's just a nuts position. You have to vote for the resolution, but you just realise that it's a substantial amount of
personal. Do you use Roundup?
Too right, I do. It's the safest. No, not at Hohepa. Because of different reasons.
3 questions to get that. No.
But Mr. Chair, the reason we don't is the impact on biodiversity. That's why we don't, and that should be the
humans too, is it?
Well, Mr Chair, the rationale,
There's a great deal of biodiversity amongst humans.
Mr Chair,
Without glyphosate.
there's a great deal more evidence, in relation to creating a monoculture and the impact on the insect population as a result of glyphosate. So they should be the reasons we support this resolution, not the mumbo-jumbo pseudoscience that people rely on to attack glyphosate.
So do you know how many countries do authorize the use of glyphosate at this point in time?
Say again?
Do you know how many countries do sanction?
It's something like 58.
No, it's probably less than 10
No,
at this
it's
point.
significantly
And there are
more.
probably countries like the Congo
New Zealand.
and New Zealand.
No.
That's the actual fact.
That's
It is
not true.
Order, guys, order.
And there was, sorry,
More fake news.
it started with me, Chair, and there was one other query that I
Yeah,
got.
you started this.
I know. Who put this paper up? There was one other query, and that was, there's a whole lot of
Yeah, we started well. We're finishing well, guys.
there's a whole lot of resolutions here that are completely irrelevant to us that we're apparently going to support. For instance, mayors' decisions to be able to appoint their deputy mayors.
And we're not supporting them. No, we're not.
Calling on New Zealand to
No, we're not.
health and beauty clinic.
We're not. We're not. We've got no opinion on that. We're
That's
not.
what I would have thought, but, so we're not going to support any of them,
No.
because we shouldn't be voting on them.
I don't think they
Pulled
should
out the
go,
ones
Mr.
that
Chair.
are most relevant
Okay,
that
come
we
on,
would
pause, guys.
wish to.
I think
The only ones
we've
that
got-
pull it, see, the ones that are relevant to us, so we're going to support. Can I just say one thing? I went to my first Labour Party conference in 1974.
Jesus.
I've been to many conferences and seen lots of. This would be the worst, drippiest collection of resolutions I've ever seen.
We've been drippier than the Labour
I
Party.
just tell you, I've never seen worse. I was just
In 10 years.
Order.
Who are these people? Where did they come from?
Oi! Peter, you've got it.
Save it for the meeting, councillor. Just in regard to the nitrate in drinking water put up by the city council, Christchurch City Council, you'd have to sort of think they had a bit of expertise in such matters. We're supporting it. Can someone just nod furiously and say about time, or are we just supporting it because it's about drinking water and we're sort of about water? I mean,
ETN's doing such a crap job.
yeah, a bit of that.
Okay, come on.
Okay.
Can you let your delegate manage these things?
Well, I'd like to move that they attend the meeting and say nothing and support no agreements.
I'm not even going to ask them for a second right.
I'll move, Chair. Recommendations as written.
I'll second.
I'd just like to say I admire Councillor Barker's intestinal fortitude. For 21 remits and all my time going to these things, I've never seen a collection like this ever. So well done, DC.
I'm just going to say, when I go there, it'll be have Tennyson's great on my head. Half a league, half a league, half a league, half a league onward, into the valley of death, road to 600. Remus to the left, motions to the right, chaos all around.
Okay.
Chair, are we not having Churchwillian, or are we allowing Tennysonian speeches?
Yeah, well, it appears so. Okay, do we have a mover, do we?
I moved.
And I seconded.
And seconded? All those in favour?
Aye.
Outrageous.
And I abstain.
Okay, so that was number
And 14, I'll move that, Chair.
14, fixing the common seal. Number
Yes.
14, things moved. Do we have a seconder? Peter, all those in favour?
Aye.
And then we're down to report from the Māori Committee, 16. That's going to be quick, isn't it?
Yes, I'm just mindful of the 6-hour curfew.
Yeah. We've got 3/4 of an hour.
The last Māori meeting was at Whakakī. Those of you that don't know, it's a huge city just out of Wairoa. And what really came over there was a good attendance of locals, including the Wairoa Māori Committee, and that gave a little bit of oomph to things. I think it's a good idea for future meetings out at Marae and that to insist that the local Tai Whenua Māori Committee come, but it just raises the general standard of understanding. But just in terms of the word understanding, every time we go out to these local areas, there is a lack of understanding as to the responsibilities of the regional council as against the local council. And so just in terms of that, at a date yet to be confirmed, the CEO and the chair and myself and some other staff are going back to Parongaho for a list of approximately 10 or 12 concerns that came through the Tai Whenua Reps report. And I could just see that a lot of those are Central Hawke's Bay District Council responsibilities, but it'll be a matter of just gently explaining that out to them. So this is the second to last Māori committee meeting for the year. The next one will be in August, and there won't be one in October, of course. The next one after that will be in the new try whatever it's called. And so at some stage before October, you will be making a recommendation to the new committee, new councillors, as to whether the Māori committee should carry on. And so I haven't got a conflict of interest. I won't be standing for either the council or the Maori committee in the next 3 years. So, it would be my recommendation that this is a very good link to Tāngata Whenua, this Māori committee. At our Tai Whenua meeting, and I've been going for 18 years, but more particularly in the last 3 or 4 years since the treaty groups have been around, we haven't had not one report back from that level. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Will question? Your move, and I'll second. Just speak now.
Oh, good to see everyone up in Aotearoa. Just something for Peri. When my wife came from the dress circle at Bridge Bar, Raukawa, to Te Wairoa, she used to call whakaki Waikiki, and I never corrected her for about 3 or 4 years, but when I did, I got told off. Because she was saying it to everyone in town.
Thank you, Finn. Any other speakers?
Well, just a PS. One of the Tāngata Whenua was saying that, how bad it was that possibility of $3 million, which has been confirmed this week, and how there's nothing wrong with the lake or the way all the ridge, the fringes. And James said to me, well, he's just defying what science said.
Okay, all those in favour of receiving the Maori? Aye. Against? It's received. Item 17, which is Tongoyo, the coastal report. Where are we there?
So do you want a summary, Rex, or just take it as read? Or how do you want to deal with it?
Perhaps a summary, yeah, just a quick one.
So quick summary, most of the meeting was dedicated to the consideration of a contributory fund, so that was about a 1% rates increase for the purposes of collecting money early for execution of our coastal strategy. So the sort of costs we're looking at there preliminarily were estimated between 130 and 285 million. So, and I think we were thinking of pulling in about 3.5 million. So there was a recommendation from the committee to endorse that position, and that's essentially collecting a public good component. I think since then we've probably seen a bit of movement from Napier and Hastings, and James might want to chip in at the chairs and CE's meeting, where rather than all parties all parties collecting rates and all parties having their skin in the game, the view was very much the regional council should collect the public good component. So we're sort of going back to the trenches a bit to work out a strategy going forward on how we can take this to the various councils to endorse, I guess, that recommended position from the joint committee. So, Peter, I don't know if you've got anything else to sort of add. It has been sort of going around in circles for probably a couple of years now.
As you all know, we're now at the implementation phase, having managed to get all 3 councils to adopt the underlying strategy, and that means deciding who pays for what, that being probably the most critical thing. Of course, there are also other things around triggers and what have you. And at the joint committee meeting, there was a resolution passed, as as you can see in the paper. And it was agreed that we needed to go to all 3 councils and hold workshops with all councillors to update them on where we're at with the implementation phase and to discuss the formation of the contributory fund and who pays what into it. And there's no doubt that there are some reasonably significant differences in the approach that the 3 councils currently want to take, and we have to try and find some way to compromise and get agreement on how that happens. And the last thing I want to see is this whole thing spinning apart in front of the public, because the councils are having a scrap about who pays for it, because that's the last thing we can afford to happen. So I'm at some pains to try and avoid that happening, but right now, even agreeing on what a presentation to the 3 councils might look like is proving a significant challenge. So it goes without saying I'm quite concerned about this. And there are 3 other councillors here who actually did attend that joint committee meeting, and they might have some comments as well.
Just a question, Chair, on the funding. When would that kick in? Is that going to be consulted on next year's annual plan, or was that the plan?
I'm sure Neil's going to have a...
Yeah, so the plan was to consult next year, sorry, for the LTP.
For the LTP? Okay, thank you. So there's a bit of lead in time.
But do a separate consultation, special joined-up consultation with the 3 councils ahead of the normal LTP consultation process, so it could feed into that.
It would inform the sort of the baseline numbers going into the long-term plan. That's the idea.
So am I correct in saying that the fee, there's been no real public pushback? I mean, it was, the media was all over it at one stage about the costs per person sort of thing, and I never saw any feedback. I never saw any pushback, or so. I mean, people understand this stuff and want it to happen. Yeah.
Especially after the Dominion's front page.
I think you're right, Fenton, but I think the pushbacks come in part from councillors in the other councils. And I think one of the challenges we've got inherently with joint committees is how do we take all councillors ultimately who are responsible and accountable on the journey when you've got a joint committee doing the work. And I think this one suffered a bit from that, and also from timing, just in terms of pre-election. And the other thing is, until we give ourselves a hard deadline to have to nail some decisions here, that people were going to spin around and not land this. So there's a fair bit of work to do and some strong leadership and lots of joined up comms, and it's no criticism of your process, Peter. I think it's been good, but I'm just saying, how do you close the deal and bring this down to... So I share your concerns.
Anyway, look, we're just receiving this
did you ask for comment from Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
It's important that councillors...
Yes.
I know, but
on the bus.
We're only in the early stages of this.
Well, you asked for comment, so I will comment, Mr. Chair. My significant concern is actually both the level of understanding of our TA partners as to the meaning of public good and the respective divvying up of those resources. At the moment, my concern is that the TA partners, councillors around the table, have a view that this is some sort of cash cow that will avoid or mitigate their local authority from having to rate for the project, and instead of seeing it as a collaborative effort. So my concern, and I see some of the efforts of some councillors from other local authorities already making overtures to their constituents about the great savings that they will encounter as a result of this, and not recognising that this is something that councillors need to get their head around, is what's going to be funded and by whom. There's no easy ride here, but their expectation is somehow the regional council will be the cavalry coming over the hill to rescue large inferred costs from these projects.
Because it was always logical that this was going to happen. It was always logical 3 years ago when we put up amalgamation. It's still logical today. We've just got some nitwit nationalists in our community who continue to oppose the fact that that there's only 160,000 of us in total, and the Three Waters thing is going to have a huge impact like this as well. I mean, this is the sensible way to do it, but I completely understand your views and prejudices on this, Neil, because it is very frustrating that on one hand they say that there's a group of people that don't want anything to do with us, but mind you, would you collect the rates and do these big things like civil defence, like coastal erosion, and like a host of other things, so like tourism. So it is a frustration that we did put it to the people of Hawke's Bay and overwhelmingly lost, but, oh, by the way, we still want you to pay. I get that, absolutely. But let's get on. This is going to be a lot of debate around this issue going forward. Petty?
Just a small point of clarification. In paragraph 3, it refers to He Toa Takitini. That was the negotiation vehicle for the settlement. It's been superseded by Heretonga Tamatea Settlement Trust.
Oh, okay. Can we have someone to move recommended note this?
I sense Councillor Curtin's frustration as well, and it's this whole issue. It's to my mind the big challenge we had was some of the TAs going, our infrastructure we'll just let it slide into the sea and not worry about it because it's finished its useful life cycle kind of thing. Instead of recognising that if they were paying into a contributory fund to protect their own assets, is where I think they were getting a little bit confused about what's public good and what's private good. And I'm almost of a mind that before we go into the next joint meeting, I would like some direction from the full council as to how much of a hard line we hold, or where do we hold the line. Because it's at the moment we're on there representing the views of the regional council, without really having come back here and said, well, this is what the position is, and what do you guys think?
I think that would be useful because it's clearly apparent with the other council that Napier is going to be represented shortly by totally different. Dalmore's not running. Jeffrey isn't running. They've been the two people on this committee from the get-go. They're going to be gone in October, so for all practical purposes, Napier will be starting its education process all over again. And so you have individual councillors show up who it's not clear that they really have any mandate other than kind of just sitting there, kind of freelancing, and they have their personal view or whatever, but it's just not clear what positions actually are out there and what's the legitimacy of those positions.
So I'll come to each council for a workshop.
Yes. So that's what I was going to say. So, I mean, the concerns that have been raised by my fellow councillors are absolutely valid. But each council will have its own workshop, including us, to discuss this. And I think we need to have those workshops first. Then we can formulate a position for this council to take forward to the next joint committee meeting.
Is everyone happy with that? Because I am.
I just question whether it's worth doing pre-October.
I think we have to proceed. We have to proceed on the basis that a majority of people at each council will still be there and need to understand where we're at right now.
I'll move, Chair.
Thank you. 2 seconds. Wish to speak? All those in favour?
Aye. I'll move the next one too.
No, well, just before you do, this letter which I'm sending out to everyone, has everyone had a bit of a read through, because we want to attach the post.
Yep. I've got just a couple of minor things I think change.
You've already had it. You've already been part of the change.
I have to, yeah, no, but I just looked at a couple of things here. I asked for a contractor, but the first thing is that the first sentence, I don't like but in the first sentence. It's been a long journey, but it's a negative. Can't we change the sentence around?
However.
And on.
We would prefer not to make any changes, but if they are
I'm happy with it, Chair.
That's not essential.
Oh, just the thing.
We'll just blame the poor English on the chairman.
Yeah.
And the second paragraph, I thought the wharfers are required to relieve congestion, prepare.
Yeah, it should be and. How big a? Here's right, but.
where would you like an end?
After journey.
After journey, rather than but. Here's but is.
A long journey. And on. But is a negative word. Why do you put negative right at the beginning of things?
First one, first sentence.
After a long journey, comma, the Hawke's Bay Regional Council voted.
Yeah, I'll do that. Yeah.
Okay, so get rid of but.
Yeah, but. And then the next one's 1, 2, 3, 4.
And, you say and, do we?
Fourth, okay. The fourth paragraph, the decision strikes the right balance for Hawke's Bay. All right, we've got balance here. Ensures the region maintains a strong balance sheet, resources, etc., etc. Including this, but where's the balance? What's the other balance with what?
Well,
You mean the right
balance is
balance?
to enable the port's development.
Yeah, but it just needs another piece to go. You talk about the balance. You've said this, well then what's the other balance, you know? What's the balance?
Out of balance.
No, I think that's all right.
I would just go from this decision to ensures. This decision ensures the regional council.
Exactly.
Forget the balance.
Yeah.
No, it strikes the right balance for Hawke's Bay. The balance is about the balance between the environment and...
Well, it says balance sheet.
Great cost.
a balance sheet is entirely different. Use
What
so.
about your financial position?
I'm happy with this, Chair.
It's your letter,
Balance is
Chair. It's your letter.
Yeah, thank you.
You asked for comments, I gave it to you, you said bugger off.
No. Hey, I just want to clarify that.
But it's lacking
I asked for
balance.
your opinion 2 days ago, and you gave it.
If you say there's a balance in something, you've got to have both sides of it. So what are you balancing?
So, all right. I just think
Both
it's...
the right balance.
Right
What
balance.
is the next sentence says, what the balance is.
Okay,
Strikes the right chord.
okay,
Strikes the right
Quite
chord.
unbalanced.
okay, we're going to
The
run.
only thing that's important is the signature on the bottom.
Even then it's a bit blurry. It looks like it's
Okay, the IPO, section 18.
How do you spell Graham again?
Seconded,
I knew I wasn't going to do this by committee.
seconded.
Wilson.
Benton,
Catch up, no, Alan moved.
oh, Alan moved.
Yeah.
Rick seconded.
Minor items, Mike.
nothing to say.
Nothing to say. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye. Against? Mine items, it's just one, it's Mike.
Yes. So 2 or 3 weeks ago, the CEO got a request from Tūwharetoa Kotahi Dana Group, which represents the 24 hapu in the Taupo Tūwharetoa area, for a meeting. And they presented an agenda. And just to summarise it, really, they had several ecological concerns about mana whenua and mana awa. So there was 3 rangatira and a PA. And in speaking to one of them, it was a very good meeting, I thought. Not very often a Māori group comes to this council and walks away smiling. And speaking to one of the chiefs a week later, he said he was extremely impressed with the chair and the other councillor and Pierre, who opened it with a karakia, and it all went around cultural interests, etc. And so generally they were very, very well pleased with the meeting. One of the things they did bring up was the Regional Planning Committee, and they said that they would address that at some future date. And as you know, I'm the temporary representative for that. So it just goes to show that if you treat rangatira like rangatira, they will walk away with their mana intact. So congratulations to those that were at the meeting.
Yeah, it was a very good meeting.
Mr Chairman, congratulations. You've created a record, particularly given the magnitude of what was on the agenda today. So,
Thank you, Alan.
to you at
It was on
lunchtime,
your advice.
it's the best managed, best chaired meeting I've experienced in the last 5.5 years.
Since your day.
Keep it up.
We did lose it at one point. These guys, they just went ragged on me at one point.
I
Okay.
guess you introduced a new style of speaking after all the spokesmen are done.
Yeah.
We give us all permission to get up the rails.
Thank you very much, everybody. You did actually do particularly well, and 5.5 hours. I think that is a record for a while. Paddy, would you close our meeting for us?
Absolutely. I'm just going to come over to this gentleman next to me.
Oh, you're good.
Different one.
Right. 1 minute's you, and next minute you did.
Now we get his R, E, or O's.
Yes.
Yeah, I forgot them already, boy. That's right.
Don't know how to work the technology, so we're just going to do it straight on paper base.
Right.
And the rest of us will join in because we've got this
Down pat. correct.
down pat. Whakataka te hau ki te uru, whakataka te hau ki te tonga, kia mā kina kina ki uta, kia mā tara tara ki tai, e hi ake ana te atakura, he teo, he huka, he hauhu, tihei mauri ora. Safe journeys from here, and thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Actually, just 2 minutes of your time, the Army came to see us, and I forgot, I was sort of put on minor items, and the Army, they're looking at us at doing,
You're going to join?
at doing a big exercise, and I just wanted to congratulate Petty. He was just seriously good in his karakia opening up with the Army guys. But they're looking at Hawke's Bay as one of the options, and we recommended Mahia, so they're going to use 2 frigates, and they do landings. And you imagine that at Mahia?
Amazing.
It would be. We said Mahia because if they have high winds and high seas, they can't land. So we said, in Mahi, you have 2 options.
Both sides, yeah.
Both sides.
2,000 personnel.
2,000, guns
Big great
and
pots on those big
roadblocks.
So it's between us, Coromandel and Northland. So
Particularly poignant at Mahia with, that was where the Americans landed.
Is that, well, that's poignant, isn't it?
I got lost, they were supposed to be
Oh, they needed execution.
on Lulu, but they ended up Mahia.
Get all the whopper.